Alright, I just told you guys in the last video I would be giving a second lecture here for the measurement and velocity unit. In this lecture, I'm going to quickly describe to you guys how to calculate and find velocity, in addition to being able to calculate for both distance and time. If you look at your success criteria, you can see be able to calculate for velocity, distance, and time. It's not just velocity, so don't get very confused with just thinking that, oh, I just need to know velocity. You also need to know how to calculate for distance and time. So the book goes through a bunch of problems, and it actually illustrates how to do this very, very well. In lieu of this, or in addition to what they're doing, I'm going to go ahead and help you guys out here. I'm going to tell you guys this general process is very, very simple. It's called plugging and chugging. It's a kind of classic term that we use, and I'm going to kind of describe to you what we mean by plug and what we mean by chug. Alright, so first of all, they give you some information here. We want to know velocity. So what we're going to do is we write down V. We want to know V equals, what is it going to be equal to? We know a few different equations for velocity, but the only one that you guys know right now is velocity is distance divided by time. Okay, so we need to find out what is the distance and what is the time if we're looking for velocity. So we read the prompt. If you drive a distance of 400 miles in 8 hours, what is your average speed? So what we do, okay, we'll do a D equals, and we'll do a T equals. So what is D equal to? If you look up here, it tells us D is equal to 400 miles. And we got that in the very first sentence. If you drive a distance of 400 miles. So it's right there. Time. Do they give us time? Alright, if you drive a distance of 400 miles in 8 hours, they give us time here. So 8 hours. So they say 8 hours. So we know distance and time. I'll go ahead and put the units in there. Alright, so now what we're going to do, it's called the plug. We're plugging numbers in to this top equation. We know this equation, velocity equals d over t. We're going to plug these new numbers into this equation. So instead of putting the letter d, we now replace it with an actual value. And that value is 400. Then t, we need to replace the t with a value, and we have the value right here, 8 hours. So 400 divided by 8. Now we chug. This is the part where we actually do the math. So 400 divided by 8 is going to be 50. So this person went 50 miles per hour, mph, or we could also write that as miles / hour. There's a couple of different ways that we can write that unit, but ultimately the plug and chug, you look for the missing values so that you can solve for what you want to know. You write them down, you get their values, and then you plug them into the equation, and then you do the math, called plug and chug. Erase all that. Now, I just showed you guys how to find V, or how to find velocity, if you know distance and time. But what if you actually want to know distance, or you want to know time? For those of you that want a more advanced lesson here, I'm going to kind of go over this real briefly. So if you need to pause throughout the next couple minutes here. So let's imagine we want to know D. We want to know distance. So let's rewrite the equation here. V equals D divided by T. We need to get D all by itself if we want to solve for it. Now mathematically we can easily do this because we can start to manipulate these variables and move them around. So we can get the T to come over onto this side. The way we do that is, let's say if D is being divided by T, to get rid of this T, if we multiply this side by T, multiplying something and dividing are exact opposites, so they cancel out. If we did it to the right side of the equation, we have to do it to the left side. So now we get V times T equals D. And we can rewrite that as D equals velocity times time. Okay, so what you're doing is you're finding out what is the opposite operation that you have to do to isolate the variable that you're looking for. Alright, so again, rewind that if you need to listen to it again. Get all that erased. Let's move on down. Give us a few more samples where you're going to find the time. Time is distance divided by average speed. Okay. Distance is average speed times time. Average speed or velocity, again, is distance divided by time. And this kind of explains what I just explained a little bit. But ultimately, if you have seen the triangle or circle, if with the F equals ma, there's a lot of equations that can use the circle. But if you see one number, like you're solving for velocity, it's d divided by t. Trying to find time, it's d divided by v. If you're trying to find d, it's v times t. If they're next to each other, you multiply. Okay, so you take whatever you're trying to solve for, so let's say d. And with the other two, you do, if they're next to each other, you multiply. Trying to find v, it's d divided by t. Or if you're trying to find t, it's d divided by v. Erase that again. And again, you just plug and chug whatever numbers you have. So down here, okay, they give you time, they give you velocity. So you can imagine, what are you trying to look for? Let's write our equation out. What are we going to look for before we even read this stuff up here? V equals d divided by t. So we already know velocity is 50. The distance didn't give us a distance, and the time was 0.2. Okay. So what we have to now do is isolate the d and get it all by itself, and what they ended up saying was 10 feet. Okay? So again, plug and chug, plug and chug. For a lot of these equations, if you don't have to try to sit there and remember them, I just want you to know how to use them. I will have them on the board during the test, so don't frustrate yourself trying to remember v equals d divided by t, okay, or d equals v times t. Alright, and I'm thinking that's kind of the end of this here. Speed versus velocity. We have a distance time graph here. That's in another presentation. So I'm not going to re-present that, re-talk about that. It's kind of a waste of your time. Here they just go over some of the different representations. Make sure you do know how to interpret these graphs, you should be able to understand what this person is doing. If distance is not changing over time, we know that the person's not moving, or the slope of the line is kind of indicating up to us how fast the person is going and in which direction. And again, it's just kind of going over that graphing that I talked about in previous presentations. And all of this is not stuff I want you to read because it's just about the Doppler effect. And that's something that you might learn later on in the year, just not right now. Okay, and that is the end of this presentation. If you have any questions, make sure you write them down. Otherwise, I'll see you guys next time.